But here I am in regular street clothes on the mat trying to pass his guard basically. And man, I couldn't get around it. With everything I tried at jiu-jitsu, you can go 100% intense, you can go full out and not really be afraid for your health or well-being. But I'm literally in the roll with somebody going, hey, are you good? Hey, is that too much? Okay, do you want more pressure? Yeah, man, I check on people. I know all the side control escapes. I know them. They just didn't work with James. Life's too short to be unhappy. Life's too short to be around people you don't like. I want to be in an environment where people are supportive, kind, friendly, and you can have a good laugh.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Elbows Tight Podcast. It's your host Travis. Today I am very honored by having a distinguished guest.
Ooh.
In one of my friends, Chris Dickens. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing excellent, Travis. Thank you for having me, man. I feel like we've been planning this for a long time, and we're finally just now getting around to it.
Yeah, it's very true. So for those that don't know who Chris is, he is an admin or mod in the L Bros community page. He's a long-time listener of the podcast, and he is the winner. And one of the reasons why we're talking is he is the winner of the name for the community. Quite a few people sent in L Bros, but Chris was the first one, and I was surprised. I actually didn't even think about it because how many people said it.
Really? How many people do you think said it total? How many people?
It was probably about 5 or 6 people actually sent in L Bros, but you were the first one. I was like, Chris got it. There we go. That's the ones.
You know what? I was thinking about this because when I first started training, which was a few years ago, I was looking for, any kind of jiu-jitsu content, anything to listen to. And you and John popped up on my Apple podcast feed, and I started listening from the beginning, man. And then I think, didn't we start? I think the first time you messaged me was when you wanted to use that picture that I made.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. I'm sorry, but I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to be the first person to say L Bros because at least I get to hang out with you and get to be on the episode. So that's cool.
No, that man, I appreciate it. I appreciate all your help within the community and helping me build it and whatnot. And it's an honor to sit down and chat with you. But let's go ahead and get a little bit of your backstory. How did you start Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
You know what's weird, man? My story's kind of long. I will try to make it as short as possible. I started off in Taekwondo, okay? Like I'm a kid of the 80s. I'm 45 years old. And so I saw the Karate Kid. I was bullied as a kid, and I thought, man, I really want to learn how to protect myself. Like my goal was self-defense and survival, And we didn't have a lot of money growing up, so my mom really couldn't afford to put me in any kind of karate lessons or whatever. And then we moved to Cerritos, California, and I learned about Taekwondo from my friend Jimmy Kim and from everything that he did. And so I started training Taekwondo when I think I was about 12 or 13. And we did some Hapkido. We did a little bit of what they call Judo, which is like Korean Judo. So there was a little tiny bit of grappling, but there was never real explanation or science behind it. What I mean is do this move. And I was like, okay, but I didn't understand why I was doing the move. And so fast forward a bunch of years, I did some boxing. We can talk about that if you want to. I did a little bit of Kung Fu, just a lot of different things, just kind of dipping my toe into different stuff. And in 2007, I got a job, and the owner actually was co-owner of a martial arts or MMA school. It was called Joker's Wild. If anybody's listening from Orange County, it was Joker's Wild with Mike, the Joker Guyman, who's a legend. He's a good dude. He's a UFC fighter. He's a friend of mine. And he was the head instructor at this school. And if I remember correctly, I think he was like a blue belt or a purple belt. But man, this guy walked on water when it came to all things jiu-jitsu and grappling. It was like a magic trick watching him do stuff. And the other guys that trained with this, man, I was getting hit with everything. And I didn't understand it. And I just wanted to get back to my feet. I was like, dude, because the way it worked is we'd have like Monday, Wednesday, Friday was like striking, and Tuesday, Thursday was grappling kind of a thing. And man, Tuesday and Thursday, I hated it because I didn't understand it and I was getting worked. I mean, worked. All those stories about when you go to your first day and you're the trial class guy. I was the trial class guy. I was getting beat down like you wouldn't believe. And I just kind of was like, I don't understand this and I hate it. And I gave up. And so that was like 2007, 2008. Fast forward to almost 3 years ago, I was looking to teach boxing. I was doing this fitness boxing for some of the parents that I used to work with when I was teaching Taekwondo. And we're going to do this fitness boxing thing for the moms. And I was looking for a place to do it. And I found a school in Laguna Hills, California. And it was a gym that rented out space to personal trainers. Now, I'm nobody's personal trainer, Travis, okay? If you look up personal trainer in the dictionary, you will not see a picture of me, all right? It is not me. I'm the last person you think of with personal trainer. But when I teach the little kids how to punch and kick, the moms were like, can you teach me? And so that's where the boxing thing came from. Anyway, I found a place to do boxing, and they had a big sign on the wall that said Kama Jiu-Jitsu. And I thought, oh, Jiu-Jitsu, I wonder what that's like. And that's what got me kind of looking into it again. I did a little research because I'm a research fanatic. I remembered who Dave Kama is, and I remembered what Kama Jiu-Jitsu was. And I was like, man, I got to try this. Here's my chance. I already had a relationship with people at the gym, and so I decided I would go watch a class. And you ever go somewhere and you're watching something, but you really want to be a part of it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're watching somebody do something, you're like, man, I want to know how to do that. As a matter of fact, I was kind of a hater, Travis. I was a hater in my first lesson because I was curious and I'd watched all the videos. And if you know who Ryan Young is part of Common Jiu-Jitsu. He runs the school down in Texas. He does a lot of content on YouTube, a lot of followers, a lot of good videos. But now I had to see this stuff for myself. You know what I'm saying? And so I asked if I could come watch a class, and I did. And I'm watching him do some self-defense stuff, which sounded good. And I was like, bro, I got to feel that. I got to feel if this really works the way they say it works. You know what I'm saying? Because you see all the McDojo life stuff, people that are like, just cooperate. And I'm like, I want to see if it works. And so I asked one of our professors, Fernando, hey, can I feel that? Can I feel what that feels like? And he's like, yeah, come on out on the mat. And so here I am in regular street clothes on the mat, trying to pass his guard, basically, in a self-defense kind of punch block series kind of thing. And man, I couldn't get around it. With everything I tried to get around it. I tried to get past it, and I couldn't do anything to this guy. And I thought, okay, this is legit. Where do I sign? And so I signed up, and I've been struggling ever since.
3 years later, still going through the same struggles, man.
Still, I've been a little better, but still struggling, man. So that was a real long answer to your question, but that's kind of the origin story. Started with Taekwondo, tried a bunch of different stuff, got to teaching Taekwondo and wanting to teach boxing, which led me to Kama Jiu-Jitsu, which now led me to you.
Yeah. So did you continue to train from 2007 till now, or did you take breaks in there?
Oh, I took breaks. I'm an older dude. I'm married, 3 kids. I went back to school. I had a lot going on, man. And so I did the MMA stuff for a couple of years. I thought that was fun. But then I got laid off from that job, actually, 2008. Remember 2008, Travis?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And I was like, all right, well, what am I going to do now? And I was trying different stuff. So training kind of fell off. But then I think it was 2000, I don't know, maybe a few years later, my son says, Dad, I'm thinking about martial arts. And I'm like, that's like ringing the dinner bell for a fat guy. Like you tell me, Dad, I'm thinking about martial arts. I'm like, I love martial arts. What do you want to do? And I happen to know a guy who's really great at this stuff. And so I went down and saw my friend Jimmy, and Master Kim is what we would call him, and my kids started training. And that was great. I'm watching my kids do all the same stuff I did, And then Jimmy was like, hey, Chris, why don't you get out on the mats again? Because he remembered me, and we talked, and he's like, come on, man, why don't you get on the mats again? And I'm old, I'm fat, it's not the thing. And long story short, he talked me into it. I started training, and then he was going to start a second location, and he asked me to teach. And I thought, really,
nice.
dude? Really? And so I became kind of the de facto head instructor for his second location as part of an after-school program. That was like 2018, 2019, 2020, where I was teaching Taekwondo. And that's what led to the boxing thing, which then led to the Jiu-Jitsu. So there's probably a good gap there from like 2009, 2010 to about 2014. I don't know. So I had a good little break, man. It's kind of like it's like that girlfriend you can't quit. You know what I mean? It's like you keep getting back together. You're like, hey, you hurt me.
Text all the time.
Yeah, you hurt me, but I still love you. You know what I mean? I kept coming back to jiu-jitsu, man, and I kept getting worked. And I think the best part now is I've been much more resilient. And even though it's still not easy, I'm still going. And it's something I can't imagine my life without at this point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. How high did you make it in Taekwondo rankings?
Dude, Taekwondo, black belt in Taekwondo, sure. But
okay.
Anybody, it's kind of weird now because all the jiu-jitsu guys talk trash about the other arts, but there's truth to it. If you can get a black belt at the age of 12, is it really that impressive? If you can get a black belt in 4 years at the age of 9 or 10, is it really that impressive? So I always say, martial arts is great because it teaches you all those intangible things, character building things, blah, blah, blah. So I will never take away anyone's accomplishment. If you're a 12-year-old Taekwondo, karate black belt, good for you. You should be proud of yourself. But do you really know how to fight? Do you really know how to protect yourself? When the crap hits the fan and somebody's trying to hurt you, are you confident to defend yourself and to protect yourself in that situation? And that's where I feel like those black belts maybe aren't as legit as maybe they should be. So Taekwondo black belt is cool, but man, I was a bouncer for years. And you'd be surprised how little Taekwondo you use when you're actually fighting people in a closed environment. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The reality of fighting is much different than the theory of fighting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a little girl that just actually made the news because she got hospitalized from sparring in Taekwondo, like
Really?
broken nose, like she's all messed up, right? And
Wow.
I think they're like blaming. I haven't seen the full story, but I think what they're trying to do is like blame the instructor for her injuries or something like that. Did you guys
Mhm.
ever do live sparring in Taekwondo?
Of course. Okay, man, look. I'm gonna keep it real with you, Travis. I wasn't gonna no, I'm keeping it real. I wasn't gonna say this because I don't want to sound like I'm bragging or I'm boasting or I'm, some super badass Taekwondo guy. That's not my goal. But I gotta give you the real deal because the real deal is the real story. Like I said, I grew up in Cerritos. Cerritos has a certain history with Taekwondo, and I'll tell you what it is. My friend
Is it like
Jimmy,
the Karate Kid?
no. I wish. That would have been like a dream come true. But I found something better than the Karate Kid. My friend Jimmy Kim won the gold medal in the 1988 Olympics for Taekwondo. He was the heavyweight Olympic gold medalist, 1988 in Seoul, Korea. He won the whole darn thing. He had the parade, driving down Main Street in the Cadillac or the convertible or whatever. So he came and talked to my football team about how to follow your goals and put in the work and da 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 da. I became aware of Taekwondo because at the same time I was moving to Cerritos, this guy was literally becoming the best in the world. And so when
That's
I say
crazy.
I trained with the best in the world, I can legitimately say I trained with the best in the world because I was on the tournament team. We traveled all over the place, fighting state championships, all that good stuff. So, yes, I fought every day, all day. We had training before school. The tournament team, we had training before school. Then we would go to school. I would leave school. I would come home. I would teach or help teach the children's class. Then I would do the adults class. And then we would have tournament team sparring. I freaking lived in the dojang. It's not the dojo. That's Japanese. Dojang is Korean. So I lived there all the time for years. And it was my dream. I wanted to be like Jimmy. I wanted to be an Olympic gold medalist. So did we fight? Yes, all the time. People came from all over the world to train with him. He was the number one expert in all things Taekwondo. He was on the
That's
cover of
cool.
Black Belt magazine. He was on the cover of Inside Kung Fu. He was on television. He was everywhere. So people, I remember sparring people from like the Swedish Taekwondo team. Like we had people come from all over the world to train with him. So to say, did we fight is like an insane question to me because that's all we did was fight. I know certain styles, they don't compete and they don't fight as much, but man, we lived on the mats and we lived in the old school style, not the style today where it's tippity tap foot tag. You know what I mean? There were regular knockouts. You were regularly bloody. You were regularly injured. Not because anybody was trying to hurt you, but that was just the intensity that we fought at. If you look at tournament footage from 1988 versus tournament footage from 2024, they look like two different sports. And that's kind of what I'm afraid of when it comes to jujitsu, but I'm sure we'll get to that.
Do you feel like any of the attributes from those years of Taekwondo have like transferred over to your jujitsu journey that you're surprised about, like maybe flexibility or anything like that?
Yes, 100% yes. I think flexibility is a big one. I think mindset is probably bigger because I don't really have a lot of fear when it comes to Taekwondo or when it comes to jujitsu because nobody's punching me in the face. Nobody's trying to kick me in the head. Like I did boxing too. Boxing's a whole different sport. You literally get in the ring knowing somebody's trying to separate you from your consciousness. Like you literally know somebody's trying to punch you in the head until you lose consciousness. And that's the reality of that sport. Jiu-jitsu, you can go 100% intense, you can go full out and not really be afraid for your health or well-being. You know what I mean? Because if you catch me in something, I can tap and you let me go. And that kind of intensity, I think, is something that's missing from a lot of martial arts. But that's one thing I think jiu-jitsu has going for it is that you can really go 100% without being afraid of injury or death. But having been punched, having been kicked, having been, well, maybe not knocked out, but knocked loopy, certainly, um, jiu-jitsu is not really scary to me. In fact, that's what one of my instructors said. He's like, dude, you're probably not even afraid of competing, are you? And I'm like, no, nobody's trying to hit me in the head. Like, what the worst case scenario is I'm embarrassed. You know what I mean? The worst
Yeah.
case scenario is I lose and I'm embarrassed. So I think toughness, I think flexibility, I think determination, I think all those intangibles, but also a fearlessness. Because, if you talk to certain people who do jujitsu and you say, hey man, have you ever been in a fight? I'd say most of the people I train with have never been in a street fight. Most of the people that I train with have never been in a street fight, never really been in a self-defense situation, have never competed in a boxing match, taekwondo match, anything like that. And I think anybody who steps on the match deserves respect, don't get me wrong. But if you put yourself out there to compete, in a sport or an environment where you can literally be knocked unconscious, your tolerance and your fear changes. Your mindset changes a little bit. It's like, I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling, man. But when people say that jujitsu is a fight, when people say that jujitsu is a fight, yes, it's a fight. It has all the context of a fight. But when you see somebody doing some inverted rubber guard berimbolo, and it's like, you could never get away with that in a fight. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff wouldn't work. And I'm still coming from the self-defense mindset, and I don't want to go the old self-defense versus competition route. But yeah, I think toughness, I think determination, I think flexibility, I think mindset is probably the best things that I carried over from Taekwondo and traditional martial arts to jiu-jitsu. Man, I'm
Did you
answering
have
your questions in a long way today, aren't I?
you're good, man. It makes for great content. People at home are gonna be like taking notes on this. Hey, so reservations. Did you have any like reservations when you first started training, like before your first class or during your first class after things started getting real?
Yes, I had two huge reservations. All right. Number one, I was extremely out of shape. And number two, I'm a really big guy. All right. I had back surgery a few years back. And after back surgery, I gained a lot of weight. I mean, a lot of weight. And I don't move like I used to. I don't have the cardio that I used to. I'm not nearly as flexible as I used to be. And, people sometimes say, like, oh, I want to lose weight before I go try jujitsu. I want to get in shape before I go try jujitsu. And I was kind of in that same mindset at first because I thought, how am I going to do all this stuff? Because I'll be honest, man, even a simple move like a shrimp, okay, even a simple move like a hip escape, for you, who's a guy who's in good shape, doesn't feel like much of anything. But if you're a heavy guy, if you're an overweight guy, if you're an ultra heavyweight, let's just call it ultra heavyweight like myself, picking up all that weight and shrimping it down the mat takes a lot of effort. So yeah, I was intimidated by my fitness. I was intimidated by my size because I also didn't want to hurt anybody. I was afraid of landing on somebody or, hurting somebody's ankle, somebody's wrist, whatever. And I think that's kind of the big guy curse, right? Is you have to learn to compete and to fight and to train to the limits of your body while protecting your training partners. That's the tricky part because I want to be good and I want to know what works for me. But number one, I want to know what works for me and my body. Number two, I want to understand all of the techniques and do them properly, which I can't do everything 100% properly the way you probably could. And then, of course, I want to make sure I'm taking care of my training partner. So I was nervous about my fitness level, my flexibility, my movement, and I was worried about potentially injuring a training partner because I'm so much bigger than they are.
Yeah, I talked with oh man, what's his name? From Juggernaut Strength Conditioning, Chad Wesley Smith, and
Okay.
he started jujitsu right after his like big powerlifting strongman. So he
Okay.
was like 400 pounds when he first
Wow.
started jujitsu, but he's 6'2", former collegiate athlete, right?
Okay.
And he talked about that was one of his concerns too. He's like, I'm a huge, strong guy. And he's like, no one wants to roll with a huge, strong guy if they start smashing them. He's like, so I had to make sure when I was rolling with them, I was like being as self-aware as possible. And I think that's
Yeah.
actually a very good thing for bigger people when they start jujitsu is you have to build that self-awareness because if you don't have that self-awareness, like if you can hurt someone and hurt
Oh,
yourself,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like you're like, I'm not going to sit there and try to Grammy roll. You know, is that something that you noticed was like your self awareness, like initially, like was
Oh,
a
yeah.
big thing that you had?
For me, I want to make sure that I'm respecting my training partners, and maybe that's the whole Taekwondo thing too, right? Respect. I want to make sure I'm respecting my training partners, and I'm not being reckless. Okay, I'd rather protect you and not get as much out of the role than get as much as I can out of the role and risk your health or your well being. Like
So how do
yesterday
you do that?
morning.
How do
What's
you do
that?
that? How do you protect your training partner, especially as someone so relatively new? I mean, 3 years is a pretty decent amount of time of training, but how have you since you started jujitsu till now? How has that protecting your partner have changed or evolved?
This is going to sound weird. I don't think it has changed much for me because I came in with this mindset. I came in with the mindset that I want to be respectful. I want to make sure I don't hurt anyone. I want to make sure that I'm protecting my partners. Like example, yesterday I rolled with one of our students. Her name is Becca. Becca is, I don't know, 5'6", probably weighs 115 pounds, 120 pounds. And yeah, if I put all my weight on Becca, if I put everything I had into the technique, Becca's going home on a stretcher. You know what I mean? And I don't want to be that guy. So pretty much from the beginning, it was all about communication. I would say, hey, what do you want to work on today? What do you want to accomplish in this role? Okay, I'm trying to work on X, Y, and Z. What do you want to work on? And then I would ask, how much pressure do you want? Because I'm going to gradually ramp up my pressure, my strength, my whatever you want to call it, to a level that you're comfortable with. I'm literally, it's kind of creepy, right? But I'm literally in the role with somebody going, "Hey, are you good? Hey, is that too much? Okay. Do you want more
Is
pressure?"
something wrong? Are you okay?
Yeah, man, I check on people. I'm serious. I'm in the middle of a role
That's
going, "Are you
good.
good?" And they're like, "Yeah, I'm good." "Okay, cool. I'm gonna give you a little more." "Okay." Or if they say, "No, no, that's good." "Okay, cool." We kind of talk it out before. I'm gonna almost get an agreement before we start rolling to make sure that I treat you with the level and the respect that you deserve. And I want to make sure that I give you the comfort level that you're at. So if I say, "Hey, Travis, how hard do you want to go?" You're like, "Oh man, I'm getting ready for a tournament. Let's go." Okay. I'm gonna
Yeah.
start at 50%. Even if you say you want it all, I'm gonna start at 50%. And I'm going to check on you and say, "Hey, man, are you good?" "Yeah, I'm good." And then I'm going to level up, ratchet it up a little bit. Now we're at 65%. You still good? Because you know how it is, man. If you're on the bottom of side control and you got some big guy on top of you and your breathing starts changing and your voice starts changing, if you're talking to me like this and all of a sudden you're talking like this, then I know that something changed, and I know that I
Yeah.
can make an adjustment to fix it or to make it easier, make it more tolerable for you. So I think it's understanding what your goal is and what you want to get out of it. I think it's understanding and communicating how much pressure, how much intensity you want, and then gradually ramping up that intensity rather than just smashing. And maybe it's age, maybe it's wisdom, maybe it's the Taekwondo background. I don't know, but I always want to respect people first, and I always want to make sure I communicate and ensure that we're on the same page. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. How does that change with higher belts? Like, say, when you're rolling with a black belt or something like that, how does your mindset shift at all, or do you kind of keep
Yes.
that same thing? You're
Yes.
like, You're getting all of it."
Hey, you know what? They told me it was okay. There's a purple belt at our school. His name is Ikaika. He's a great dude. And I was rolling with him, and he told me, he's like, "Why aren't you using your weight?" And I said, "Well, I'm trying not to crush you." And he's like, "No, crush me." And I'm like, "Bro, I can't crush you. That's crazy." He's like, "No, I need to feel it. You're gonna make me better by putting me in this situation. You're gonna make me a better fighter by learning how to deal with guys your size." And it's okay. So that was like a permission slip. That was like a get out of jail free card. Because one of the things that was tough, Travis, is when you're rolling and you're trying not to put your weight on somebody, you're expending energy trying not to hurt somebody else. Like I'm using energy to hold myself off of you while still trying to get you in the role. Does that make sense? It's
Yep.
like I'm working twice as hard. And so when Ikaika told me that, he was like, "Yeah, get me." And I was like, "Really?" And I talked to Professor Greg, is the guy who does all my private lessons. Greg's awesome. I said, "Hey, Ikaika said I can give him all my weight." He goes, "Yeah, if you got purple belt and up, give them everything. They should know how to deal with it." And so I'm like, "Really?" So anyway, if
Whole
you're
new world.
yes, baby. If you're a purple belt and up, I'm giving you everything. I still check on people, but I let them know, like, "Hey, man, you're a purple belt, and he said I can give you everything. You down?" And they're like, "Yeah, give it to me." And so, boom, I'm hitting them with everything I got. And that is a freeing experience, except for they're so much freaking better than me, right? So even if I'm giving them everything, they're still gonna get me. I don't think that doesn't mean I'm gonna win, but it gives me a little more freedom to try some more stuff and to use more of my strength and more of my pressure and more of my weight distribution, whatever you want to call it. So rolling with the higher belts, I get to take the training wheels off a little bit more. I get to loosen up and attack more, or just go harder, I guess, because you don't go hard on the trial class guy, and even if it's me with the white belt that's been there for 2 years like I have, I'm still taking it easy on him. And even the blue belt, some of the blue belts are considerably smaller than me, and I still take it easy on them. But there are certain guys that are a higher belt that say bring it on, and when they say bring it on, you damn right I bring it.
So you mentioned in there you do privates. Do you feel like that is beneficial for all people, especially larger individuals or ultra heavyweights or whatever? I don't want to keep saying larger. That sounds kind
Dude,
of
you
like
can say
degrading,
whatever you
but
want. You can say ultra heavyweight. It doesn't hurt my
yeah.
feelings. It's all good.
But as an older practitioner, a little and larger, do you feel like a key to your success in jujitsu so far has been your privates?
I feel like I would
That
be
sounds really
lost.
weird. First of all, I just want to say that sounded very weird. I don't your
Yeah,
private lessons.
yeah. I got you. I feel like I would be lost in jujitsu if I didn't have private lessons. Because the way my brain works, I'm a teacher. I teach high school. You know that, but maybe the
Yeah.
guests don't know that. I teach high school. I literally have a master's degree in teaching. Okay. I understand how teaching and how learning works. And for me, I am I have a lot of different learning styles, if you will, but I have to ask questions. And so when you're in class with 30 other guys and you're going over the move of the day, yes, our instructors allow and make room for questions. But everyone's experience is different. For example, if you tell me to do an armbar, okay, my armbar is going to be different than your armbar just because of my body type and the way that my body works. And if I don't have time to ask, how can I make this work for me? If I don't have one-on-one attention to make sense of this stuff, then I think I would be lost in this style, man. Like, I honestly don't know how people do it without private lessons. If you read all the books and all the history lessons, Richard Bresler's book, I'm reading Drysdale's book right now, most of the teaching started, at least back in Torrance and the garages and all that stuff, with private lessons. I think you need to have that one-on-one context to be able to stop and say, am I doing this right? Is it supposed to feel like this? How does this work? Because every time we go, every Saturday, my private lessons are Saturday mornings. I'll go in there with Greg and he'll say, do you have any questions? Because 9 times out of 10, we start with questions. Something that I did during the week, or something I got caught in, or something that I didn't understand about the move of the day on Tuesday night. We'll just go over questions. And that's so freaking valuable to have an expert. And yeah, I'm going to call him an expert. He probably wouldn't like that. But to have an expert, a black belt who's been teaching for years, ask you if you have any questions to review the techniques that you went over in class, or to review something you got caught in. Dude, we've even watched tape. Like, I've sat down with Greg and said, hey, can we watch the video of me rolling with James? And we'll watch it together like NFL players watching film and go, yeah, your posture sucks. Or, oh, you got swept because of this. So that kind of one-on-one fine-tuning and tweaking, that attention is game-changing, man. I don't understand anybody who doesn't do private lessons, and that's not to pick on you, because I know you said you haven't done any private lessons.
Never done a single one, yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, imagine if you could just sit down with your instructor for an hour and ask him all the questions that pop into your head and work on whatever technique you wanted to work on. How much would you love that? How crazy would that be?
Yeah, I mean, it's true, but I don't know, like, I feel like I just wouldn't. I like how you say from the week's classes, you'll do your private on Saturday, and
Yeah.
like I think that's great. I mean, I don't know. To me, privates just don't sound. I mean, I know they're valuable, but it's just not something I'm interested in. You know what I mean?
So hold on, I'm gonna flip the microphone on you for a second. Okay,
here we go.
I've heard most of your episodes. Okay, I've heard a lot of your stories. I know about your competition. I know some of your experience. Okay, if you were able to watch that tape, have you watched your tape of your tournament with your instructor?
No. I mean, I've shown him like things here and there, but not like the whole thing.
So if you could sit down with your instructor and watch the tape of your tournament and go over it, and then he can show you what you did wrong, or give you advice or give you tips and literally roll with you and show you, hey, if you put your hand here instead of here, it probably would have worked better. Wouldn't you think that would be valuable?
No, I mean, I don't say they're not valuable.
But you don't want to do it. Why don't you want to do it?
I don't know. I just like, if I do a private with, it's nothing against like my instructors, but if I do a private with someone, I kind of want it to be someone outside of my academy personally.
Okay, all right.
I see because we have a small academy as it is. We don't have a lot of people. So if I have questions or whatever, I'm able to ask and still get that feedback.
Okay, all right.
But to me, if I were to do a private, it would probably have to be someone outside my academy, and with some accolades or something like that. Like,
okay,
I just don't want to do it. And it's not like saying anything negative towards my instructors that I have. It's just that I get to see them all the time. So to me, a private is just like,
okay,
I'm just paying extra for something I'm already getting, if that makes sense.
It does. Have you been to seminars? You've been to seminars, right?
Yeah, I've been to like 1 or 2 seminars. Yeah.
How did you like the seminars?
I love seminars. Seminars are great. Like,
do you feel like at your seminars, were you able to ask questions and get some hands-on feedback while you were doing whatever they were covering?
A little bit, yeah. But I mean, usually seminars are a lot of people and whatnot. Yeah. So like, yeah. But I mean, it's not perfect, but it's fun, you know.
So if Roy Dean was going to offer you a private lesson, would you jump on it?
Are you joking? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that answers my question. So maybe okay, that answers. All right, cool. I see where you're coming from.
I'm not against them. I see the value in them. It's just in my journey, I've never done it, and I don't know. It's just like, it doesn't excite me to go train. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's like, it's nothing against my academy or anything like that, because we have great instruction and stuff like that. So,
well, let me tell you what happened yesterday, because yesterday was my private lesson. Okay.
Real quick, this episode is brought to you by our Patreon and YouTube members. Thank you guys so much for committing $5 a month for exclusive and early content, and you get priority Q&A and you will get secret live streams. And also, you have the opportunity to get your roles reviewed by myself and a past guest or one of my high-level friends that can tell you what you're doing wrong, what your goals are, and where you should be focusing. Also, you are directly supporting the podcast and allowing me to keep improving and keeping my editor Dan. So thank you guys so much to my patrons and to the YouTube memberships. If you guys want to join for $5 a month, link is down below. Thank you so much. Back to the show. Peace.
And one of my favorite training partners is this guy, James. James is the big guy like me. And I love rolling with big guys like me because it feels different. I experience it differently. And if I ever compete, I'm going to be competing against guys my size. And so I decided, let's try it. Now, James got me last week with the chubby special. I call it the chubby special, right? It's the cross-side Americana. He got to the cross-side, and next you know, he had me with the Americana, and I was stuck like Chuck. And so for some reason, I know all the side control escapes. I know them. They just didn't work with James. And I didn't know why they weren't working. And so last week's private lesson, I talked to my instructor, Greg, and we worked on what I was doing wrong. As a matter of fact, I had a class with Dave. Dave's our head instructor, Master Dave. I should probably call him that. He doesn't really do the whole master titles. We don't really do titles, but I want to be respectful. And Dave, I said, man, I was getting crushed by James and I don't know what I did wrong. And he just kind of tweaked a couple things. And guess what? I survived. And so then I come back this week and guess who's there? James. And he tries the same thing and I was able to stop it. Yes, he didn't get me this time, but he got me with something else. And I was like, son of a biscuit. I thought I overcame you, but I overcame his plan A, B, and C, and now he had to go to plan D, right? I was able to survive cross-side or side control, and I was able to escape, and I was able to do this, and I was able to do that, but he got me with something else. So guess what I'm going to be working on next Saturday? I'm going to be working on James's plan D. Maybe we're even going to watch the video. Hey, man, why did he get me in that? And then we're going to talk about it, and we're going to train it. We're going to go through it, and hopefully I'll have an answer for him. But if I didn't have that opportunity to ask Greg, hey, man, I got caught here, and I don't know why I got caught here. Or, hey, I thought I was doing the escape the right way, but for some reason it just didn't work with somebody his size. It didn't work with somebody with his body type. It didn't work with somebody who's this flexible. What am I doing wrong? Being able to go in and fine tune and adjust those little things and tweak those little things, I think makes a huge difference for me, because that lets me know I got caught with this. What was I doing wrong? Okay, now I'm better. And of course, then I go get caught with something else. So next week, we're back to the lab, man. We're back to figuring out what's going on. So for me, it's like, it's like watching film for an NBA player or like an NFL player, being able to analyze what you did or did wrong or did right. I think that helps. So yeah, I think there's value in it, but I'm not sure. I guess maybe we got to get you a private lesson and see how you feel afterward.
Yeah, I was going to say you're probably convincing a lot of people at home that have reservations about private lessons. Comment down below if you've ever done a private lesson in jiu-jitsu. Let me know if I'm just being crazy. So, but with training during the week and having your privates on Saturday, are you doing anything for like recovery during the week to make sure that you're not getting too beat up with all this training if you make it to all your classes like you want?
My wife loves yoga, and we have the gym that we belong to has yoga classes, and they have a special kind of yoga called yoga. What is it called? I forget what it's called, but it's a recovery kind of yoga. It's not like they have yoga flow, they have yoga sculpt, which is like weights and stuff, and they have whatever this one's called. I forget what it's called, but it's really nice because it's slower and it's you hold positions longer, and it's to maximize your flexibility and let your muscles recover. So yoga is probably the only thing I do that's designed to help for recovery. I see a lot of the cold plungy stuff, which I know you do that. I see a lot of different things people do. I don't really do any of that. I really just do yoga. Yoga's it. It helps me stretch. It helps me breathe. It helps me get into better positions. And that's about all I do for recovery. And try to sleep. Sleep is important.
Do you take any supplements like vitamins, fish oil, protein?
I do protein shakes. Just because, I wake up early and I got a long commute. So my breakfast is usually a protein shake. But I really don't do anything else. Maybe I should, man. Do you recommend anything? Do you have something you recommend?
I mean, from everyone that I've talked to about the subject, usually creatine, protein shake. If your diet isn't getting it, like a multivitamin or something like that for like your joints and stuff like that, would all be great. I actually have a couple guests lined up where we're going to talk about nutrition and jiu-jitsu, cutting weight, and stuff like that. So this would be really good. But
I'm going to be listening because I'm always listening. So I'm down. Hey, I'm open to anything. And if there's value in it and it works for some people, especially people I trust, and I trust you and I trust your heart and I trust your motivation, then I'm willing to try it, you know? Um, I think nowadays with so many people focusing on competition and there people have these strength programs and they have these recovery programs and they have all these different mobility programs and it's crazy how intense it is. It's crazy how people, their bodies are like race cars. They're constantly tuning and constantly tweaking them to try to get the maximum performance out of this vehicle. And I understand that, but dude, I'm a hobbyist. I'm never going to be world champion. I'm never going to win ADCC. I think I might compete one day, but it's not even high up on my radar. So I don't feel the urgency to do all that stuff, but there are people out there, people who listen to the show, people in our group, in the Elbros group, who are serious about competition and they need to do this stuff. So yeah, I'm open to it and I'll listen to it and I'll watch and maybe I'll even try some things. But if you tell me it works, I'll give it a shot.
Well, I appreciate that. And then I'll have a discount code for you too. No, just kidding. Hey,
Yes,
so
indeed.
you mentioned in there like building the trust with people and then the Elbros committee and stuff like that. How important is like community to you in your jujitsu journey? Like where does that fall in like the the hierarchy of priority for yourself?
Oh man, I think that's got to be number one. Because if you think about it, how much time do you spend? Our classes are 2 hours long. So if I go
Oh
twice a
my
week,
gosh.
yeah.
I ain't got time for that. No.
Yeah. If I'm gonna go twice a week and for an hour on Saturday, which yesterday I did my private and I did class yesterday. So it could be 6 hours a week, 7 hours a week. If I did it exactly the way I wanted to, I would be there 7 hours a week. And that's a lot of time to spend with people you don't freaking like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not going to crap on anybody because people all have different styles, different motivations, but I wouldn't survive at one of those highly competitive, gyms where everybody's just trying to smash anybody on their way to on the road to world championships because that's not my motivation. Those aren't my
Yeah.
people. You know what I mean? Most of the people at our gym are older, they're well educated, they're successful, they have kids, We're like now don't get me wrong, everybody in there is pretty much a killer. Like I'm not saying, oh, we're just sitting around, drinking tea and watching, the Muppet Show. No. We're in there and we're working. But we're all in kind of a similar life stage, I guess. It's kind of like find your people, find your tribe, if you will. It's like CrossFit. You're a CrossFit guy, right?
Yes, sir.
The community of CrossFit, I did it for a little while and it was not for me, but the people were amazing and the support is amazing. You want to be around people who want to see you win. You want to be around people who
Yes.
want to see you succeed. You want to be around people who care about your family and about your job so that they're not going to, wrench that arm bar. They're not going to rip that Kimura because they know you and they care about you and they care about your family. We've got dentists, we've got attorneys, we've got doctors, we got people who have real lives outside of the school. So I want to train with people who I mean, don't get me wrong. We have some competitors in our school. There's some guys in there that are amazing. But I want to train with people who see the world kind of the way I do. And that might be closed-minded. I know there's beauty in variety, don't get me wrong. But I would not survive at, let's say, Atos or whatever. Is that what it's called? Atos?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I would survive there. And they look like nice people. And they're not too far from me. But the mindset is different because I'm not going to pretend that I'm trying to win the world championship so I can kick it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to lie to kick it. Remember that? So I would rather just show up and say, this is who I am. This is my goal. This is what I'm trying to get out of this. And can you help me get there? And the people that I train with can. So I don't know, man. I life's too short to be unhappy. Life's too short to be around people you don't like. And so I want to be in an environment where people are supportive, kind, friendly, and you can have a good laugh. Like if you don't hang out with your training partners after class is over, if you don't sit around and shoot the breeze and laugh and talk a little bit of trash and crack a couple of jokes, then you probably need to switch schools. Like if you don't, if these aren't people you would hang out with on a weekend and have a barbecue or grab a couple beers with, you probably need to switch schools because that doesn't feel like a supportive environment. It's like sales, right? I used to work in
Good point.
sales for a long time. People buy from people they like. That's the whole building rapport thing, right? People do business with people that they like. And people are going to train with people they like. Now, if I was a 21-year-old, guy with world championships on the brain and I happen to like the cannabis, maybe I'd be at 10th Planet. You know what I mean? Maybe. I don't know. Nothing wrong with those guys. I know a lot of 10th Planet guys. but it's just not my scene, and you got to find your tribe. You got to find your people. So I hope I didn't make us sound like a bunch of old men sitting around in our rocking chairs, but I feel like a lot of us are in the same kind of life stage and we value the same things. We value self-defense. We value good technique. We value great communication, great teaching, great learning. And I mean, come on, dude. Jiu-jitsu is the melting pot of so many different things and so many different kinds of people, but you got to find your kind of people.
Yeah. No, that's it. Hello? Check.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, those are great points. Like, I definitely feel like community. Like I always talk about when you're looking for a new place to or an academy to go to, you have to go there and make sure the vibe is right with you, make sure it
Yeah.
fits you. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of academies out there, and there's with the growth of jujitsu, there's the growth of bad people in jujitsu too. You know what I mean?
Ooh,
Like
yeah.
there's not always a lot of people. There's not going to always be 100% everyone is in it for the right reasons, right? They're going
Yep.
to see dollar signs. They're going to see the possibility to take advantage of people or whatever it is. And so you have to be able to find a place where you feel comfortable and you can train for a long periods of time. And if you don't feel like you mentioned, like if you're around people that you actually don't really like and you don't want to train with,
Yeah.
then yeah, maybe it's time to find for your journey. Like, don't quit. Go find a new place to train, maybe.
Yeah. And what's funny is when you hear people like my white belt, I forget his name, but he talks a lot about trying different schools, if you hear a lot of, I think even on your show, when you ask for people to give advice to a white belt, and they say things like, uh, try 3 different schools before you pick one. Those kinds of pieces of advice. I think that's great because culture is huge, man. And like you said, people aren't always in it for the right reasons. Sometimes you have positive people, you have negative people. You got to find who works with you, who matches your personality or whose teaching style matches your teaching style. There's so many different things. It's like we talk about jujitsu like it's this one big, monolith, jujitsu. But again, there's so many different parts to it. There's so many different focuses and so many different, like, take a Gracie University school versus a 10th Planet, 2 different worlds. You take a competition school like whatever Gordon Ryan school is called down there in Texas, right?
New wave.
Yeah, versus, I don't know, Gracie University, both doing jujitsu, not the same flavor, and you got to find what works for you and what matches your goals, what matches your mindset. So I don't know, what kind of school do you train at? Is it more competitive? Is it more self defense? Or is it more older people, more younger people? What is your vibe?
We have like a good melting pot of people. Like most of the guys, it's predominantly male, 25 plus.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So we do have some females, but not very many. And then in the evening classes, it's like competitive, like between people, but not a lot of people compete in our academy. We don't really push it. We're a Carlson Gracie academy,
Okay.
so we like our jujitsu is heavy pressure. Cook people, try to smash. You know
Were
what I
you
mean?
always
So
Carlson Gracie or were you a different affiliation?
I mean, we've been through 3 different black belts in my one academy. So, um, we've been under Marcelo Alonso, Carlson Gracie 3, 4 years now, maybe.
Okay.
So a good chunk of time. Like right after I got my blue belt. Well, right after the pandemic is when we Sean, our professor Sean, came over and
Mhm.
started teaching. So
How do you think your jiu-jitsu has changed under each regime? Like since the Carlson Gracie took over versus whoever was previous, how do you think your jiu-jitsu or your school, your academy's jiu-jitsu has changed or evolved?
oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. So when we first started, it was kind of like what we would call like surfer jiu-jitsu. Everyone was like super chill. It was like wasn't going super hard. People were rolling hard, but it wasn't like very competitive, I guess you would say. I don't
Mhm.
know. It was just like a different vibe. Like it was definitely more relaxed during rounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then Sean showed up and it was, everyone got their face smashed in by him. And, because you thought you knew jujitsu. And then he came and he was just like, he came in and he was like, what are you guys doing? You
That's
know
a
what I
great
mean?
feeling and a sad feeling at the same time,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And it was nothing against our previous instructor because I felt like I did very well. I learned a lot under him, but it
Mhm.
was just a different type of, like you mentioned, it's a different flavor of jujitsu. We weren't before that. It wasn't smash, cook people. You know what I mean? Like that
Mhm.
grueling jujitsu. It was kind of flowy. It was more of, kind of like more elaborate techniques. And then he came in and it was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing the iron pillow? Like, that is so
The
stupid.
iron pillow? Okay.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, you guys give your back up way too easily. He's like, stop playing prison guard. He's
What? That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So it's I feel like my jujitsu has, even if I don't get to train as often, I feel like my jujitsu still is better than it was. Um, in certain ways, and in other ways, maybe not as good. So, I don't know. It's been an experience. And now Sean is saying he doesn't really want to teach anymore because he trains high school wrestling also.
Okay.
So he's like I just don't have time to teach jujitsu either. So
And he's the head
Cody,
guy?
yeah, it's not his academy. It's Cody, one of my best friends,
Okay.
who's a 4-stripe brown belt, so he's almost a black belt.
Okay.
And so once he gets his black belt, we think Sean's just gonna be like, "All right, I'm here for class." You know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
and that's it. So,
Is Cody, I mean, you feel like Cody's going to be as solid an instructor as Sean?
oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
good. Yeah.
100%, yeah, because the difference in everyone, including Cody, since Sean took over, whether it's instructing, rolling,
Yeah.
all that stuff, we all have leveled up quite a bit. And so, Cody, I think Cody is a phenomenal. He owns the CrossFit gym side too that we used to do that. So
Okay,
he's been
cool.
coaching for 12, 15 years or something like that. So he's got a lot of teaching experience, and he's a former amateur MMA fighter, undefeated MMA fighter,
Oh,
and
nice.
all
All
kinds
right.
of stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
So the only problem with Cody is Cody's 6'5", 220 pounds of oatmeal and sex appeal is what he calls it.
Okay.
So
Do,
he's hard to roll with sometimes.
do you guys do any striking? If he's an MMA guy, do you guys do any striking?
No, it was just that shoot, dude. It was just a endeavor to get jujitsu open in art with him. So
All
I've
right.
done a Muay Thai class with him one time, and
Mhm.
I kicked his elbow, and I was like, I don't really know if this is going to be for me, man.
It's not for everybody. Hey, you asked a question in the chat the other day, and I mean, if this isn't cool, you can edit it out, I guess. But you asked a question in the chat about, does lineage matter? Does
Yeah,
lineage
I actually
matter?
wanted to talk about that with you too. Yeah,
Okay, cool. Because when you say you've had three different, lineages or instructors or whatever, I don't know what to call it, but three different regimes, right? Three different people running the show, and I've had one. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
and our lineage is clear and it's very straightforward. And so I wonder, how do you feel about your lineage, about your school's, I don't know, legacy? I don't know what to call it. What do you think? How do you feel about that? Do you think it's are you, do you wish you had a different kind of an experience? Are you happy with your experience? Do you feel like, what do you think about a person like me who's had a very clear, very direct line to the alios of the world, and somebody who has, a 10-step, whatever you call it, what do you call it, 6 degrees of separation? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
10 degrees of separation.
Well,
How do you feel about that? Because you posed the question in the chat, but I don't think you answered it.
so to be clear, Sean is 2 black belts away from Carlson Gracie.
Okay,
It's
wow, that's
Carlson
good.
Gracie, Marcelo Alonso, Sean.
Okay,
Right.
awesome.
So he's a 3rd degree under Marcelo Alonso, who's got his black belt from Carlson. He was
Awesome.
Carlson Grace, or Marcelo Alonso was the first black belt in the Pacific Northwest from Brazil. He
Okay.
came up here. So the lineage there, and also we have Arthur Ruff up here too, who's like a 5th degree black belt straight from Brazil, been up here since like the 90s.
Awesome.
So like it doesn't really matter to me because I'm just learning jujitsu.
Yeah.
And I think if it would matter more to me if I didn't have so many different instructors.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But my loyalty in jujitsu isn't to who's teaching me; it's to my friends. You know what I mean? Like,
Your community.
so
Yeah.
yeah, the community. Like, I love the academy I go to. I don't want to train anywhere else. You know what I mean? I'll
Mhm.
drop in and go see other people, but like to me, lineage. It doesn't matter who's teaching at my academy. It doesn't matter who I'm under when I get my belt
Mhm.
because I don't know. It's 2024. Like, if I stopped going to an academy now, I could still learn jujitsu. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I could still go and buy a BJJ Fanatics. I could still do their online courses and stuff like that. So to me, it doesn't really matter too much. But I definitely see how it could be a perk, or it could be a good thing when you are a black belt and you're like, oh, I'm a black belt under X, Y, and
Sure.
Z. You know
Do
what
you
I
think
mean?
when people are looking for a school, do you think that they should pay attention to lineage, or do you think they shouldn't care? What is your opinion on that?
I honestly don't. If so, I'll frame it in two different ways. If it's someone that knows something about grappling, you'll probably care about Lineage.
Okay.
If you're someone that wants to learn self defense and you want to get healthier, you want to be in a community, you see MMA and you're like, man, that looks great. I kind of want to try that out.
Yeah.
I don't think Lineage matter. I don't care if you go to a Gracie Baja, Gracie University,
Mhm.
some random jiu-jitsu academy that's in your town that gives you 2 weeks free class.
Yeah.
Like I don't think Lineage matters then. I think it really matters for more of the purist, I guess you would say. But if it's just a random mom that wants to make sure that she's not going to have her kids stolen from her or
Yeah.
get taken advantage of, go to wherever you feel welcome and gives you what you need. You know what I mean? Like that. That's
That is
why I think it's more important.
That is an excellent point. And I kind of learned that the hard way because when my friend Jimmy asked me to teach at his second location, I was like, dude, why would anybody want to come learn from me? You know what I mean? And that was insecurity on my part. Sorry, we got a door open and it's all good. That was insecurity on my part because I was looking up to him, Olympic gold medalist, thinking, holy crap, I learned from you and you are the best in the world. You at one point were literally the best in the world. And why would anybody come train with me? And that
Yeah.
made me feel like, wow, but exactly what you said is exactly how it played out. Moms cared that their kids were safe. They cared that their kids were having a good time. They cared that their kids were well taken care of and were treated with respect. And they cared that they were learning something fun and learning something valuable. How to defend
Yeah.
yourself while having a good time. You know, the parents would show up at the end of class when we're playing games like Steal the Bacon and Sharks and Minnows and, that sort of thing. And they didn't care if they could do a spinning heel kick. They just cared their kid was safe. The kid had a good time. They're having fun.
Being
Now,
active, healthy.
yeah. And when I call attention, they stand at attention and they don't move. And they, all this stuff that we talked about, the confidence, the discipline, the da-da-da-da-da. They wanted to see that, but they didn't care what medals I had won. They didn't care what belt I had gotten, blah, blah, blah. Because the truth of it is, and I didn't say this earlier, but I didn't get my black belt from Jimmy Kim. I got my black belt from someone else when I was in Colorado. So technically under Jimmy Kim and his father, Grandmaster Chung Young Kim, I was a red belt. I was one step below black, but I ended up getting my black somewhere else. And I told him that. He's like, nobody cares. Just come teach the kids. And, love them, care about them, treat them the way you want to be treated, and boom. But for me, because I came from that background of best in the world, and I mean, this is going to sound like I'm BSing you, but I learned boxing from a former world champion, like WBC champion. So I learned how to box from a guy who was one of the best in the world. And now I'm learning jujitsu from a guy who's one of the best in the world. And so I think legacy, I think lineage is a bigger deal to me because I've literally been exposed to the best. And I want to continue to train with the best. And that sounds a bit egotistical, I guess. Maybe it sounds a bit, I don't know, idealistic, but I looked and I wanted to know who taught you. Me, it's kind of like when you make a copy of something. If you make a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, it loses quality. Do you know what I mean? For me, I wanted to be as close to the source as possible because I literally trained with the source, and then, of course, with boxing, I was really close to the source. And now with jiu-jitsu, I am very close to the source. And it feels right. It feels authentic. It feels like I can trust it. That's not to say somebody who's 10 steps removed is untrustworthy. But for somebody like me, I'm a credential checker, and it meant something to me. And maybe it's not important to most people. Like I said, the kids that I was teaching when I was teaching Taekwondo, the parents didn't care what awards I had won or what belt I had or how long I'd been training. They just wanted their kids to be safe and to have a good time and to learn something. So I think it's different for everybody. And that's why I asked you that question. Do you think your lineage or the change in your lineage has changed or evolved your jujitsu? And it sounds like the answer is yes.
Well, Chris, this was a great conversation, man. Thank you so much for coming on to the show today, dude. And like I said, Chris was the one that was the winner. So I was like, I definitely got to talk to Chris about his journey and everything like that. And I think you brought up a lot of good points about community, privates, and I think there'll be a lot of value, especially when it comes to like protecting your teammates. And I think people will find a lot of value in this conversation. And you did a great job, man. Thank you so much for your time today.
The funny thing is that's one of the things I get asked a lot about is, as a big guy, what should I focus on? Or as a big guy, how can I best roll with my partners? Because this, I created a YouTube channel and I put up a video on where to find plus size, big and tall gis, right? Because the regular Fuji gi wouldn't fit me. And so I had to go find a big and tall gi. And somehow it became like the I don't know, the ultra heavyweight whisperer. I don't know. And so people started asking me, how do you do this? How do you protect people? And yeah, it's a big topic, and I think hopefully people got something out of it. So thank you for giving me a chance to talk about it and share my experiences, and for helping me or letting me be the first person to name the YouTube, I'm sorry, the Facebook community, the L Bros. So
No, you're all good, man. It was a great name. Like I said, I'm surprised I didn't think of it myself. So,
yeah,
but hey, you listen to the show.
yes,
You
I
know
do.
how every show ends. If you
Mm-hmm.
could give one piece of advice to a brand new white belt, what would it be?
Uh, um, I hear the advice keep showing up a lot, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think consistency is key. Um, but if I was going to give advice to a white belt, it wouldn't be keep showing up. It would be to stay curious, to investigate and learn as much as you can. I think there's value in instructionals. I think there's value in private lessons, like we talked about. I think there's value in YouTube, good old Professor YouTube. I think anything worth doing is worth doing well. And so if you're serious and this is something you're passionate about, why not learn as much as you can? Why not dig into it and go as far as you can? And I'm not saying become obsessed, but maybe get a little obsessed. Maybe you get some of those John Danaher, BJJ fanatics instructionals. Maybe you go to a few seminars. Maybe you watch a bunch of YouTube. Hopefully you take a couple private lessons. You ask a lot of questions. I would say be a professional question asker. Be, I feel like I'm going to, like that old Kung Fu series, seek knowledge, grasshopper. Seek knowledge. Trust yourself, trust your instructors, but there's so much out there, man. In this day and age, like I'm a lot older than you, but back in the day, we didn't have all this stuff available. We didn't have the internet. We
Yep.
didn't have YouTube. If you wanted to know something, you had to go to the library with your library card and check out whatever book they had available. There is such a wealth of knowledge and so much access. Like, I'll put it to you like this, man. You have interviewed some pretty high level people in this industry. And when I listen to, like, my white belt, he's interviewed Jorge Gracie and a lot of people that are legends. Dude, I train with a legend. You know what I mean? Like, I train with one of the Dirty Dozen, one of the first people in America to get a black belt. I train with the number one student of Hicks and Gracie. And I can sit down and shoot the breeze with him about anything in the world and ask him 1,000,001 questions, and he's going to help me. You don't get that kind of access in other places. Jiu-jitsu is unique in that regard, that we have access to our heroes. We have access to the people who shaped and made this sport what it is, who made this art and this style what it is. I literally met Hicks and Gracie. I shook his hand. I got a terrible picture with him. But dang it, I met the Michael Jordan of this thing. He's my instructor's instructor. And I don't know any other sport that has that. I don't know any other hobby or pastime that has that. So I would say, stay thirsty, my friends. Stay knowledgeable, stay hungry, and get as much as you can. If John Danaher is doing a private or a seminar, go. If somebody's has a new instructional out, watch it. If you can hit an open mat with somebody you know and respect, go. I think it's just be curious, be, I don't know, nerdy. I'm a nerd, if you can't tell.
Hey, if people want to follow you and check your stuff out, where can they find you at if you want to give that out?
I am at Chris Learns Jiu-Jitsu on Instagram, on YouTube, I think that's it. TikTok. I do have a TikTok. I never really post there, but yeah, at Chris Learns Jiu-Jitsu. And I'm sure you'll tag me in the post, and people can find me. And if you have any questions, if you're an ultra heavyweight like me and you want to talk about it, or you need some help, or you want to, I don't know, just commiserate, let me know and we can talk about it together.
No, that's good, man. And I'm definitely excited for you to start your YouTube channel content back up again, especially after this conversation.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, my man. No promises. But I'll think about it and we'll
Go
see what we
follow
can do.
Chris and say, where is the content? We want the big guy content.
Okay. Yeah. If I end up competing or something, I'll definitely document it. If I end up doing anything, we talk about a lot of the dreams and a lot of the goals, and I'll keep you posted along the way. So thanks for giving me this opportunity, man. I really appreciate you, and I don't want to kiss your butt too long and too hard, but you are consistent, and consistent is a gift. And when I say that, I mean that. I'm not. This is not for the camera. This is not for the podcast. Edit this out. I'm telling you, my friend Travis, that you have been accessible, you've been helpful, you've been encouraging, you've been insightful, and your content has been consistent. And it's something that I think most people, and maybe they don't tell you enough. And I know our Facebook group isn't huge, but I appreciate you. And I thank you for everything you've done so far. And I hope you keep doing it, because I think it helps a lot of people. So thanks.
Oh, I appreciate that, Chris, man. Thank you a lot. So, hey, everyone. If you guys want to give me some words of affirmation like Chris just did, no. No, thank you guys so much for listening and watching at home. Go follow Chris everywhere. He's a wealth of knowledge, as you can tell. And remember, no oil checks here. Peace.
Later.